Okay, Assalamualaikum and selamat sejahtera. So in this video, I will going to explain about chapter 4. So chapter 4 is about biocatalysis. Okay, so first of all, before we proceed, okay, to this chapter, okay, so in this chapter, it will have 3 subtopic. So for subtopic 5.1 is about properties of enzyme and also mechanism of enzyme action. 5.2 cofactors and 5.3 inhibitor. Okay, so first of all, what you have to know is, okay, in this chapter, first kali awak mesti kena tahu the definition of enzyme. Okay, so what is enzyme? Okay, so enzyme is a globular protein. Okay, so I will explain about the definition first. Saya akan baca dulu definition dia. So enzyme is a globular protein molecule that act as organic catalyst, okay, which speed up the rate of chemical reaction by lowering activation energy. Okay, so if you look at the definition here, okay, enzyme, first of all, it is a globular protein. So what is globular protein? Okay, so this one actually kita dah belajar masa SEM 1. Okay, based on types of protein, so we have globular protein, fibrous protein or conjugated protein. So kalau untuk enzyme ni, dia adalah globular protein. Why it is a globular protein? Because you look at the shape of the enzyme here. Okay, globular means that the shape of that enzyme is in 3-dimensional shape, or it is in compact structure. Okay, why the shape of the enzyme will become like this? Because of the interaction between the side chain. Okay, and then enzyme also will act as a organic catalyst. Okay, so what is the meaning of catalyst? Okay, catalyst ni kalau dalam bahasa Melayu maksudnya adalah pemangkin. So means that when enzyme act as organic catalyst, so it can speed up the rate of chemical reaction. Okay, so means that rate of chemical reaction akan berlaku dengan lebih cepat. Macam mana? By lowering activation energy. Okay, so nanti saya akan explain berkaitan dengan activation energy. Okay. So if you look at the definition of catalyst here, so it is a chemical agent that selectively increase the rate of reaction without being consumed by the reaction. Okay, so that's why we said that enzyme is an organic catalyst. Okay, so bila ada enzyme, so means that it can speed up the rate of the chemical reaction. Okay, without being consumed by the reaction. Okay, and then another terms that you have to know in this chapter is substrate. So tadi kita cerita berkaitan dengan enzyme. So what is substrate? Substrate is a reactant which bind to an enzyme. Okay, so where does substrate bind to the enzyme? So if you look at the structure of the enzyme here, it has active site. Okay. So, if you look at the definition, okay, what is substrate? So, substrate is a reactant which binds to an enzyme. So, in specific, substrate will bind to enzyme at the enzyme active site, okay, or the reactant on which an enzyme works. Okay, so what is active site? So, if you look at the structure of the enzyme, one of the structure that you have to take note is active site. So active site is a pocket or groove on the surface of the enzyme where catalysis occurs. So means that, okay, the catalytic reaction will occur when substrate bind to the active site of the enzyme. Okay, so the groove is formed by group of amino acid that come from different parts of the protein chain. Okay, and then the group are brought together by the folding and bending of the protein. So it holds 2 or more reactants in a proper position so they may react. So awak tengoklah based on the structure of the enzyme here. So it has active site. So active site, it will serve a site for the binding of the substrate. Okay, and then based on the mechanism of enzyme action, so if you look at the diagram here, so an enzyme form a complex with its substrate as follow. Okay, so let's say the green color here is substrate. Okay, and then the orange color here is the enzyme. So this is the active site of the enzyme. So when substrate, okay, bind to the enzyme, okay, so it will form enzyme substrate complex. Okay, so maksudnya dekat sini gabungan di antara enzyme dan juga substrate. So we call this one as enzyme substrate complex. Okay, and then when the reaction is occur, so what happen to the substrate? Okay, substrate will form a product. So this is the product by this reaction. Okay, and then beside active site, okay, on the surface of the enzyme also, it has a site, another site that we call as allosteric site. Okay, so what is allosteric site? It is a site other than proteins or enzyme active site. Maksudnya site selain daripada active site yang berada pada surface of the enzyme here, so we call as allosteric site. okay, where a molecule that is not a substrate may bind, okay, thus changing the shape of the enzyme and influencing its ability to be active. So actually based on the allosteric site here, so ini kita akan discuss dengan lebih detail dalam subtopik inhibitor. Okay, so apa yang awak kena tahu sekarang adalah allosteric site actually it refers to the site other than enzyme active site. Okay. Okay, now we proceed to the properties of enzyme. Okay, so if you look at the properties of enzyme, so this one you have to remember. So what are the properties of enzyme? So actually, the properties of enzyme, you can relate with the definition of enzyme. Macam yang kita dah discuss sebelum ni. So enzyme, most are globular protein. Okay, and then some are ribozyme or riboenzyme which made up of RNA molecule. But mostly enzyme ni adalah globular protein. And then second properties, enzyme will act as organic catalyst. So since enzyme is an organic catalyst, so that's why it can increase the rate of the reaction. Okay, and then third, it is highly specific for a particular substrate. So means that, okay, enzyme ni dia adalah specific for a specific or particular substrate. Hanya substrate yang tertentu sahaja boleh bind kepada active site of the enzyme. Okay. And then enzyme speed up metabolic reaction by lowering the activation energy of the reaction. So this one nanti kita akan discuss, okay, dalam topik activation energy. And the enzyme activity can be influenced by pH value, temperature, substrate concentration, and also enzyme concentration. So actually all of these are the factors that can affect the enzyme activity. Okay, and then enzyme possess active site. So this one we already discussed. Okay, for catalytic reaction to occur, and the enzyme are not altered at the end of the reaction, or enzyme can be reusable. Maksudnya enzyme ni boleh digunakan semula bila sesuatu reaction tu telah berlaku. And then enzyme may catalyze a reversible reaction. Okay, and then next enzymes are required in small amounts to catalyze reaction. Okay. Now we look at the classification of enzyme. Okay, so actually how many classes of enzyme that you have to know? So there are 6 classes of enzyme according to International Union of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology classification. So ada 6 kelas semua sekali. So how enzyme are grouped into the 6 classes of the enzyme? It is based on the type of chemical reaction the enzyme catalyze. Okay, so let's say if the question asks you how enzyme is classified, so this is the answer. Based on type of chemical reaction, the enzyme catalyze. Okay, so each enzyme consists of the name of substrate act upon by the enzyme. Okay, maksudnya enzyme ni kalau kita tengok dia akan, kalau kita relatekan balik dengan properties of enzyme, it is highly specific for a particular substrate. Okay, hanya substrate yang tertentu sahaja yang boleh bind kepada active site of the enzyme. Okay, and then the type of reaction catalyzed. So if you look at the example, okay, contohnya, okay, if the substrate is maltose, okay, so the enzyme is maltase. So enzyme ni dia akan ada suffix-ase dekat belakang. So kalau substrate ni adalah sucrose, so the enzyme is sucrase. So tu contohlah. Maksudnya ini kita katakan sebagai enzyme is highly specific for a particular substrate. So means that enzyme maltase, okay, it will react with maltose. So maltose ni adalah substrate lah. Okay, and then now we look at the enzyme classification. Okay, classification of enzyme. There ada 6 classes tadi. So the first one we call as oxidoreductase. Okay, so type of reaction catalyzed, it will catalyze transfer of electron and hydrogen atom between molecule. Okay, for the example, all oxidation, reduction, reaction. Maksudnya enzyme yang terlibat dalam proses oxidation and also reduction reaction. Okay, so the enzyme class tu kita panggil sebagai oxidoreductase. So what is the example of the enzyme? The example of enzyme are dehydrogenase and also oxidase. Okay, and then second, transferase. Second class are transferase. So the type of reaction is catalyzed. Okay, it will catalyze transfer of a chemical group from one substance to another. Okay, so what is the example? So you can give transaminase and also phosphorylase. Okay, and then next, third, hydrolase. So the type of reaction, it will catalyze hydrolysis reaction. Okay, so yang tulisan yang color merah ni, okay, this one adalah keywords lah. Okay, for the types of the reaction. Okay, and then the example, peptidase, lipase, and also phosphatase. Okay, and then next, lyase. So, type of reaction, it will catalyze breaking of chemical bonds without addition of water. So, the example is decarboxylase. Okay, and then next, isomerase. So, it will catalyze the rearrangement of atom within a molecule by converting one isomer to another. So, example is isomerase and also mutase. Okay, and then the last one, ligase. Okay, so actually ligase ni awak pernah jumpa lah. Okay, masa SEM 1. So, what is the function? Okay, sorry. What is the type of reaction it catalyze? It will catalyze the formation of bond. The keywords here is formation of bond between two molecules using energy derived from the breakdown of ATP. So, the example is synthetase. Okay. So, all of this, it is based on the classification of enzyme. Okay, so means that you have to know, okay, all of the 6 classes of enzyme and then what its type of reaction it will catalyze and also the example for each of the enzyme class.